Okay. Hi, everybody. Um, so I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. I missed last week, so I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving and back to the regular routine here.
Yes.
I have a friend on tonight. I'm going to introduce Laura.
Oh, good.
Laura came to us last time I hosted, which was a couple of years ago. Kind of toward the beginning. She was in Mexico at the time, and she ended up reconnecting with Susan Chris, who they had been old friends, and they met again. We met on the Zoom. Susan hasn't been with us for a while. But
On and off.
Laura's back again. She what?
We were roommates.
Yeah, they were roommates. So that was kind of
Anyways,
fun.
nice to be here. I think it's
Welcome
awesome
back.
what you guys do.
We're glad to have you. Hey, Laura, where do you live now?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, fun. And do you have a place or people with whom you're hoping to share your soups, or are you just cooking for your family tonight?
Well, I do have people that have recovered from some surgeries, and it's that time of the year, so
Yeah,
it's cold, and I'm gonna kind of divvy it out.
Oh, that's great.
It's a big pot.
Because she made it also, you made it in Mexico like 2 weeks ago, right?
I did. I made it. Yeah, in fact, I still have some in the freezer. So when I go back, I'll have a little bit. But yes, I gave, or no, that was somebody else. Anyways, but I gave the soup to somebody whose husband had died.
Well, even though you're not local to us, we do ask if you don't mind to just click the link on the website and share with us how you shared whatever soups you did share, because we're looking to have stories that cross the globe on what we're doing here. So that would really be nice if you add yours to it.
I will. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Definitely. So I did have the soup like a couple months ago. My cousin made it and I thought it was delicious. So I asked her for the recipe and that was how I offered it up here. After I made it, I've made it twice now. I made it right after that because I wanted to experiment. And then I made it again earlier today, because I made some changes, which I wanted to talk about first, the recipe itself, because if you haven't started making it yet, there's a couple things about the recipe that I think could be tweaked to make it a little bit easier. Starting with the recommendation that it cook for 3 hours. She didn't cook it for 3 hours. I didn't cook it for 3 hours. I think Deb didn't cook it for 3 hours. It doesn't need a full 3 hours. It really just needs about an hour and a half, or like today I put it on for 2 hours just to see what the difference would be. It doesn't really need that long, especially because we're using French lentils, and the French lentils don't need that long, to cook. I always go back and forth about lentils, like whether to rinse them, whether to not, whether to parboil them, whether to not. And in today, I looked up another French lentil recipe, and in that recipe, they recommended pouring boiling water over your rinsed lentils and letting it sit for 15 minutes. So I decided to try that. And they came out really, like, the lentils came out really intact this time. They were like, a lot of lentils are really mushy in soups. These are not mushy like that, but they were a little bit mushy last time, but this time they're really particularly intact. And I don't know whether that was the difference or not, but that's just kind of a sidebar. I don't think that's really relevant to tonight. Also, when my cousin made it, she omitted the sugar and the oil in hers. I put it in there the first time, and I thought hers was better than mine. So I wrote to her and said, "What did you do? Yours was so much better." But I think in the end, she's just a better cook than I am. That's what I've concluded. And then this time also, the Swiss chard recommendation is to put it in at the end, not to put it in at the beginning, because it gets so soggy. And I guess just with all recipes with soup, like anything like that, like that's cruciferous like that, to put it in at the end. So that would be my other recommendation, is don't put the chard in. And then this recipe calls for everything to just be dumped into the pot right away and just like let it roll, which is probably totally fine, but I didn't do it that way. I actually sweat the onions just like we would in any other soup recipe. I sweat the onions and the celery, and I guess it was just the onion and celery, until just for like 5 minutes, just to get them a little bit going. And I added garlic as well. And then I added everything else, because I really feel like that's, to get the full flavor of onions and garlic and celery, that I just think that they taste better when you saute them a little bit.
I also am sauteing the squash with that because I think the vegetables hold their shape more when they're sauteed before. And I thought if these vegetables are cooking for 2 hours, they're just going to be
Mushy.
so. I'll let you know how that comes out.
Well, that's I did that too, Betsy, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because mine is done and it did hold its shape. Like I'll show you a picture. Sorry, I'm technically challenged. See if I can show you. I definitely made something, and I also talked to my cousin about like what she, whether anything else that she thought. I don't know how do I do this exactly.
Are you using a laptop or a tablet?
Yeah.
So you really want to like actually pick it up and face it down, which is a little awkward.
Which I have. Okay. Hopefully I won't drop it in here.
Hopefully not.
I have to face the camera out, right? Let's see.
You know what you can do, Kelly, if you want to pull it the Zoom up on your phone.
Oh yeah, but will there be static?
No, I think you can have it on both.
Okay.
I think. And while you're doing that, Michelle is asking, how are French lentils different from any other lentils? I didn't see anything labeled French in the lentil section.
So they do have them in Whole Foods. That's where I get them. But it's a good question, and I think that there's a very little amount of difference. The biggest difference is what I was saying earlier. French lentils tend to hold their composition better in a recipe than brown or green or the other lentils. So you can absolutely substitute with whatever lentil, but I just think that presentation wise, and every time I ever make lentil soup, it's so mushy. But this isn't. I'll show you when I'm done. That's what the beauty of the French lentil, and that's sort of the characteristic that sets it apart.
Okay, and then she's also
Susan.
Hi.
Do you know what's so odd? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to digress, but I haven't seen you in so long on the soup, and Laura's on it.
No way. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
Here's that.
That's so random. So I was just going to add to your comment on the French lentils. They are a type of green lentil, but they're smaller than your bigger green lentils, so they don't get as mushy. That's why they hold their shape. They are specifically a little bit different.
Okay. And for those of us who, like Michelle and I, are not using French lentils today, how late should we put in our lentils in order for them to, how much cooking time do they want? Regular lentils, half hour?
I would think, yeah, I would say no more than an hour, right? Because they cook so fast.
Yeah.
And in order for them to maybe try to hold their composition a little bit, the less, the better. I guess you could cook them for an hour and then test them, right?
Yeah.
And then go and
yeah.
What do you think, Susan? Do you have a thought about that?
I do think they go less long. I mean, I think I wouldn't probably do more than 45 minutes with them.
Wouldn't do more than 45.
They will really start to fall apart.
Yeah. Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. And then she's also, Michelle's also wondering, if you don't have coconut oil, would you recommend butter or a different oil?
So I used coconut oil. I was this time not going to use coconut oil because I did it last time. And like I said, I thought it didn't do anything for it. I was going to use butter this time, but if you don't want to use butter, I would use probably canola oil.
Yeah.
Or avocado oil,
and
maybe.
It's such a vegan recipe. I was going to try to maybe use an oil rather than a butter just to maintain, your ability to claim it as a vegan soup. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking I didn't want to add the butter unless it was absolutely necessary.
Not absolutely necessary at all. Use any oil, Michelle.
Well, that actually leads me to another point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's really a curry flavored soup.
Yeah, the curry really came through strongly this time. I also had a leftover jalapeno.
Oh.
And so I chopped that up and threw it in this time too, just because I thought that would be
have you tasted
it needed a little something.
Okay. You tasted it and you like it?
I do. Yeah, I could really taste the curry come through this time. And I can't really taste the jalapeno, but there's a little bit of an after zing to it, which is probably that pepper.
So those of us who don't follow directions, as you know, when I used the diced tomatoes, I also agreed it might need a little something. So you know how they sell the diced tomatoes with the green chilies in them?
Mm-hmm.
I used a can of that instead. So I can definitely taste it. My soup is done because I had planned on leaving it on for 3 hours, but it's on for an hour and 15 minutes and I've taken it off. I've turned the heat off. It's done.
Does anybody have any suggestions of how you retrieve the bay leaves?
Carefully.
I made sure I used really big ones this time, and I fished them out before it was completely done. That's the other thing about the French lentils, since they're not mushy, I could easily find those bay leaves in there this time.
And especially if you don't put your lettuce or chard in early.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Get those
Hannah.
out first.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Too late for that.
No, sorry, Hannah.
I also, after Thanksgiving, I froze so much turkey stock. I made turkey stock, and I didn't even know what I was going to do with it. I just threw it all in the freezer. So I decided that I'm going to use it for a soup zoom. So, I mean, even if we use chicken stock, this would no longer be a vegan recipe, right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to try the turkey stock so I can A, get rid of it, and B, it's also really good. So, to add flavor and then just not label it as being
Right. Perfect.
vegetarian.
Right. But so you'll write on there contains turkey or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And butter. So I'm sorry, Julie's asking, what about the thyme sprig? Julie, ask what the full question is. Are you wondering whether you should take the leaves off or put the whole sprig in, or what's your question?
How do you suggest taking it out? I guess you could just find it at the end and just fish it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was easy to find too. I just took tongs and pulled it out.
Okay, thanks.
I'm still trying to wrestle with this Zoom, sorry.
I sometimes like finding the bay leaves because it kind of gives it authenticity.
I like that approach.
Did anybody else finish theirs already? You said you made it, right, Deb?
I made it last week, but I'm making another one now that I
Did
haven't.
yours have a lot of water? Or was it thick?
It was not watery. Let me go get you one of my finished ones. Okay. You know what? After it's been sitting, it's thick. It is thick. Was yours watery?
It's a little bit, like it seems like it has more water than it needed. I used the 5 cups of broth and the 10 cups of water, and then I was thinking I either needed a little bit more lentils or a little bit less liquid, but
Yeah.
maybe it will get thicker. I just made it like 2 hours ago, so.
I think it does thicken, because what I'm looking at that I made last week, and this one I didn't freeze, I don't know why. It's like perfect amount of, but I'm not the best measurer when I pour my stuff in, so.
Okay, well, let me add that for those of you who know me, you will not be surprised that I followed the recipe pretty much to the T. That's what I normally do when I first make a recipe. And I did cook it for 3 hours. The lentils were fine. The consistency was great. I made it yesterday because I saw the 3 hours, and I will admit I panicked a little, and I wanted to have enough time to be able to do dishes before midnight. So anyway, it was wonderful. I had a cup for lunch today, and the flavors really came through. I put in the full amount of, 3 tablespoons of curry powder, and I like it. It definitely has a curry zip, and I used a sweet curry powder, the Penzi spice, but it's lovely. I will also add that I added when I sat down with my bowl, I added a tablespoon or 2 of thick yogurt. Because it seemed to go well with the curry flavor and the lentils. But lentils looked great, held their shape, didn't go mushy-gushy.
That's great.
How much salt did you add? Usually I don't add salt.
I didn't add any salt because I use the low sodium, I use chicken paste, the Better Than Bouillon paste. So I added no salt because everybody can add as much as they choose to.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the long cook time is supposed to make it creamy. think she got it.
I must say it's beautiful with all of the colors in it. The squash, I've never made lentil soup with squash. I've done it with carrots, but it's just, I'm looking at it, it's just really pretty. Lentil soup is not always pretty, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. And the tomatoes spark it up too.
I also finished my soup. I started it earlier this afternoon because of the 3-hour cook time. And mine is cooked for about 2.5 hours. And the one thing I found is that when I tasted it after about an hour and a half, it tasted very sweet from the sugar. But now the whole sugar taste is gone. It's all melded together nicely. So I think the long cook time is to make sure that sugar kind of cooks down and incorporates. If you leave it out, I think you don't need to cook it as long. But if you put sugar in it, I would recommend cooking it for a longer time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hadn't put sugar in mine when I made it last week, and I was wondering what it adds.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, that it adds a lot of, I really disliked it when I tasted the soup after the first half hour. I said, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't put that sugar in. It tastes terrible. I don't like sweet things, but it really has a depth of flavor now. Maybe
I'll try it this time. Interesting.
Cook it for at least 2.5, maybe 3 hours. If you actually, and my lentils have not lost their shape at all. They're still perfectly intact, and it's yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sugar can cut the acidity. That's what it does with tomatoes.
That must be it.
Yeah, but 3 tablespoons seemed like a lot for this.
Two tablespoons is a lot.
Yeah, 3 is. I thought is what it called for. Yeah, in the recipe, and it was like it was a lot. I'm thinking, oh, should I put that in? I said, well, I always try when I make a recipe. I always like to follow the directions the first time I make it. So I did. So, but it's good now.
That's great.
Yeah.
So getting down to the end of the year, and I'm running out of soup containers. So I put a notice in River Falls chat. Julie, you may have seen it, but I got to tell you, I got so many soup containers. If you guys want to make friends at the end of the year, look at don't look at the full soups that I just filled, but look at all these soup lids and soup containers. And this is from asking on River Falls chat if people have soup containers that they want to give me. The only downside is you're going to get too many if you ask for them, but people are so happy to have something to do with their plastic containers. Don't discount the possibility of taking other people's containers and just running them through your dishwasher.
So I totally embarrassed my daughter she was here for Thanksgiving, and we're taking a walk through the neighborhood, and someone had the recycling bin out.
You went through their trash?
Not exactly, Deb, but close. So there was like this whole pile of soup containers. She said, "Don't." I said, "I'm going to." She goes, "Just don't."
Not when I'm here.
You can walk on the other side of the street, but I'm grabbing those containers. I'm not going to go rummaging through to see what else they might have. However, there was someone down the street who had all this stuff out that they were getting rid of, and including a big slow cooker thing, whatever you call those.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can use for an apartment? Because I
mean, if it's working. Betsy, the problem is we don't know if it's working. So if you
I'll test it out.
Yeah, then absolutely, sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I love that you're always on the lookout. That's fantastic.
I'm a scavenger at heart. I can't help it.
Oh, aren't we all, right? I think that's something everybody on this call has in common.
Okay, there we go. All right, can everyone see this picture?
Hold on, I have to, not yet. Stay where you are. I got to get your new, yes, we can see it beautifully. Let me put you full screen.
Okay.
If you can move it over, yeah, there you go. And I think maybe there you go. Oh yeah, it's very brothy. Yeah.
Very healthy.
I don't even see much of the Swiss chard on yours.
I haven't put it in yet.
Oh, no wonder. Okay.
I wanted to show you before I put it in. There's my time.
Yep. Look how pretty. Betsy, you're right. That is so much prettier than a normal lentil soup.
Yeah, I kind of like it, but whoever made the comment about the butternut squash, that's what I was intrigued by too. All right.
I just tried mine after about 40 minutes of cooking.
Yep.
Squash is soft. The lentils are holding their shape and they seem done. It is a little sweet from the sugar, but not in a bad way. I only put in 2 tablespoons of the curry, which I'm really glad I did. It has enough of a kick instead of the 3. And because I'm going to give it to some people, you never know how, not everybody likes hot stuff. So
right. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was even tempted to write curry flavored lentil soup on this because it's so, I mean, some people don't really love curry and so many people do. I don't know. Do you guys think we ought to indicate that it's a curry based kind of flavor or not necessary?
It seems like, I think that is.
Yeah.
I think that's a better description of it.
Okay. I'll put that on. I gave it to somebody who was doing some, you know what? There was an email that went around our neighborhood that they were collecting computers that they're sending to Ukraine. Somebody has some connection. And so I asked them what they were doing before they delivered them. And they actually go through a whole refurbish project with it. So I said to them, well, I could give you the ones that we've collected and haven't refurbished yet. Because you're going to go through them anyway, because, you know, KindWorks has a whole refurbishing program. So he picked up a whole bunch of stuff that A, we couldn't refurbish, or B, that we didn't do yet. And I gave him some soup, and I didn't mark on there that it was curry soup. But the minute he got home to Virginia, he said, A, thanks for the computers. That was a great load. And B, that soup was delicious. So
David is working his way through the computers here.
Yeah.
And has actually went and picked up all of the chargers today. So do you think that those also would go to Ukraine, or do we have
domestic?
Not.
No. Okay. I mean, we were able this time, and Betsy, I hope I'm not boring everybody else, but let me tell Betsy this. We were able, based on talking to him about what their capabilities are and what they do with these computers, we were able to give him, like I said, the things that we couldn't refurbish. So rather than our people saying, I can't do these, I'm taking them to the dump, we were able to give it to them. And we're hoping that they are, and I bet they are, genius enough that they're going to be able to work on them in a way that we just were frustrated. So it's an amazing win-win. And I did tell them if they don't work for them, let us know, and we'll give them good ones also. But as long as we can, you know, keep the good ones here and give them something usable, I think that's a better use. So David put a lot of time into making those usable. We're going to give them to people in the county.
Great.
Or at least in the area. Yeah.
So, but I will let him know to set aside the ones that he can't bring back to life.
I have put it on a chat with all of them.
Great.
So they all know. Yeah. Thank you.
He's ahead of that. Great.
That's awesome. And if anybody on the call works for a company, owns a company, works in an agency or a department that, you know, buys new computers for their employees periodically, we'd love to speak with whoever runs those decisions and try to get, you know, a whole corporate donation of aging out computers, because we will just work on them, volunteers work on them, and then we give them away, you know, to people in the county. So keep us in mind if you ever hear of anyone in that position. Thank you.
How in the world did you get past your private kitchen thing that you can make things and give it without,
you know, Laura, it's a good question. And I'll tell you, the pandemic changed a lot of what people were willing to take. You know, 2 things happened. Way more people were hungry and way less people were working in offices that could donate commercial kitchen made food. So just out of necessity, and I think a little bit our good name, we started off with folks that we know saying, yes, we'll take your food and share it, and it's grown. So I think I've seen people rely much more on the Good Samaritan law now that so many people are so hungry.
I wish other places would allow it, like spread the good word to relax the regulation.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you, but at least around here, we haven't really run into too many closed doors on that.
Well, you're lucky.
We're happy to get our food, yeah.
So Deb, I have a question about the different part of KindWorks, the refugee apartment setups.
Yep.
I haven't seen emails on that lately. Did it slow down? Do you expect it
It has slowed down a lot. We're still doing 1 or 2 a month, but it has slowed down a lot. And the resettlement agencies and the one agency that used to be small and is now really big in this field, Homes Not Borders, can really handle almost all of it now. So we're doing, a little setup here and there for Afghans who call us because word of mouth. And we're doing them for some of the migrant families that come up from the southern border as they are getting settled. We're helping them. So we're just doing 1 or 2. And I haven't really needed, which is sad and frustrating. And Alexa's probably rolling her eyes because I would always say to her, we need to invite everybody to do it, but they fill up before we have a chance to send them out. So I apologize, Alexa, for years of asking you to do something that you were unable to do. And now I'm feeling the hypocrisy of it, but these signups, Michelle, are getting just filled up before they even.
No, that's great. It's good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So Kelly, I had put a question in the chat a little while ago. If I'm using dried thyme because I didn't have a thyme sprig, how much do you recommend that I use?
You're off, Kelly.
Yeah.
Did you say dried thyme?
Yes, as opposed to the sprig
Oh,
of thyme.
okay. So the dried version of herbs is more concentrated, right, than fresh. So I think it's a personal preference of how much you like thyme and how much you want that flavor to come through. I don't love thyme, so I would put like a teaspoon in if it were me.
Okay.
But we put 3 tablespoons of curry in. So if you wanted to really balance, maybe more 1 tablespoon would be maybe like the average. What do you think, Lars?
That sounds good. I have live thyme outside, so I just like cut a big hunk of it and threw it in there.
Yeah, sure. I was happy to get rid of it. Actually.
Your climate is a little bit warmer than ours, Laura.
Well, I'm in Kansas City tonight.
You are, and you still have thyme in the garden?
It lasts. It's a perennial.
No, I know. Mine just isn't sheltered, so it's kind of not usable at this point.
I can use it.
That's good. Thank you.
I think this is I think somebody mentioned before, I think this is a very visually appealing soup. Some soups just are more than others.
Yeah.
And I like the look of this. I think of all the colors in it and sort of the textures. It's just it's sort of an elevated lentil soup is how I kind of look at it. I love lentil soup. I would eat almost any version of it. But this one just is kind of I just thought this one was kind of an elevated. I thought the Food Network people would be happy with this version. I actually looked at a couple of recipes at a couple of chefs I like to see their versions of lentil soup, and none of them actually had butternut squash. Theirs were, I had other sort of interesting things in it, but I didn't see another one with butternut squash and curry as a combination. So that's why when I had it, I was like, my soup group would love this soup.
Has anybody used like kale instead of Swiss chard? Given that I have kale.
I did.
And
yep.
Good?
Totally.
Yeah, they're interchangeable, I think.
I use spinach. because it said you could use, I looked it up because I didn't want to buy Swiss chard. I just don't know how to pick it. I don't want to have to deal with it. Spinach is already cleaned. It's very nice. And it looks and it tastes fine.
So I have a question. Once Marge goes under the knife, where are we supposed to drop our soups?
A lobotomy.
So Joyce, you're not going to love my answer, but there are the places where you can drop them are all on the website.
Okay, all right.
Unless anybody wants to play Marge for a couple of months.
Yeah, but couple of things. First of all, we don't know that my husband won't be doing this.
Aww.
We don't know. I mean, obviously I won't be able to cook the first week or two, but it's certainly possible that he'll be willing to do the delivery. Speaking of which, who's coming by tomorrow to drop off soup? Lisa?
I think I am.
Joyce, Kelly, anyone else? Susan? You coming to drop off soup?
It may not be tomorrow,
Okay, that's fine.
but I'll text you as I normally do. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds
But
good.
I missed this. I didn't know you were having some sort of procedure. Everything
Yes,
okay?
to go on top of my COVID, I'm also having my left shoulder replaced.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
a
but
deal.
What's the date?
well, it's moved. It's now December 30th. So it's moved to the end of the month because the COVID threw off they pushed it back. They wanted me to wait. I guess the hospital requires that you wait 4 weeks after a positive COVID test.
Oh,
So the 15th wasn't going to work anymore.
okay.
So
Yeah.
you've got the baby New Year shoulder. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right. Baby New Year. Hey, I had surgery once on the 31st. So the 30th is nothing. I'm going backwards here. I'm going to see the doctor next week after sometime, because I still have questions. My arm just doesn't hurt that much. It's not that bad. You think, am I crazy? I know, Joyce, you've heard this before, and I think that yes, you're crazy, and B, you still need to have it done, right? But I'm not real excited about it. I mean,
it may be better to have it done when it's not hurting that badly than when it is. From a recovery perspective, it seems like that's actually not a bad thing.
right. And it's not it'll never get better, perfect better. And my main concern is that it's not really my shoulder that hurts. It's my kind of the muscles, the biceps. And I want to make sure that this is really going to fix that, because if it isn't, there's no point in doing the surgery.
And I assume you've done the whole cortisone shot and physical therapy and all that.
No, they wouldn't do physical therapy. They said it wouldn't help. I had a cortisone shot in June. It made an enormous difference. It was wonderful. I had an MRI. I've had 2 doctors tell me I need to have it replaced. And now I've had a CAT scan because they actually custom build what they're going to put into the shoulder. So, yeah, not real excited about it. But it is what it is. And the problem is, of course, I had all this, I built up that, you're going to have it done December 15th. And now all of a sudden they pushed it back another 2 weeks. And that is rather annoying.
Well, I hope you have a lot of elastic waist pants.
What? Yes. The other
because you're going to be immobilized on one side. So forget about bras.
Right. Forget about bras. And the other thing that I had to do, I don't have button down shirts. I had to go buy some button down shirts.
Skirts.
You could always wear Dave's.
Dave's, I can't. Dave is too small. I mean, Dave is at best a medium, and that's not going to close around me.
I had surgery on my elbow, and I went to the thrift store. They used to be on Wisconsin Avenue, and just bought a whole bunch of big men's button-down shirts, and that's
what I did, Marge. You can go on off of Rockville Pike. It's the Goodwill Thrift Center. I ended up 5 shirts for $30.
Well, I ended up buying, they had something on sale at Costco for like $10. I bought a men's large. It's great. It was great.
Go to Goodwill.
No, can't do it. I have, if I could get into my son's room, ha ha ha, and see what's in his closet. Now he's much bigger. And even my son-in-law, I should probably ask my son-in-law too, because they're larges. Those I could wear.
Well, you've got time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also
Yep.
heard, Marge, my aunt had, she broke her elbow or her wrist and her elbow recently, a couple months ago. And she ordered something on Amazon, some kind of tops that are specifically for people who are recovering from shoulder, arm injuries. They button down, but they're like simple. They're either Velcro or even buttons might be hard to, because those buttons are tiny and the hole that you have to go into is tiny. But these were like a recovery clothes kind of thing. You might want to go on Amazon and kind of search around and see.
I'm sorry, buttons. Isn't that why God invented husbands? He has no idea what he's in for. He has no idea how to clean. He has no idea how to empty the kitty litter. And the hair washing. I'm going to dry shampoo. I'm really excited about that. Has anyone got any experience with dry shampoos?
I use it all the time.
Yeah,
yes.
And it works?
I was educated by my teenage daughters about the benefits of dry shampoo. Yeah, oh yeah, it does. It works pretty well. Now, I wouldn't use it more than a day or two, maybe, but I actually used it today. True confession.
And your hair looks lovely.
I'm working on day 3 here.
Does it smell? I don't like those flowery smells. That bothers me.
I like the brand that we use is Batista. Batista, Batista. And they make, I'm kind of like that too. I don't like a lot of scent, and this one has a sort of very neutral smell. And once it's in my hair, I never smell it or feel it. It's not gritty or greasy or I don't know. I really like it.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Kind of a lifesaver, honestly.
I'm gonna have to. I know that has to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, my mom enjoyed going to the beauty parlor and just having them, clean her hair. It just was like an extra massage.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can treat yourself, Marge. Really hair washings.
Futzing around with me. I'm getting my hair cut. But if David is really a failure, I might have to break down. We'll see. There's, someone suggested getting a shower chair and using that, to take, like when you wash your hair, when you're in the shower, to just sit on the chair, that'll make life easier too.
I actually have one if you want to borrow it. I could bring it over. I have one up in my attic.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I've never really seen what they look like.
It looks like a stool, kind of. It's white and it's like a hard plastic. Yeah, it's plastic. You can move it around easily. It has kind of a dip. It doesn't have any arms or a back. It's just a stool seat, and it's kind of dips, and you sit in it, and it has holes so the water runs through it and doesn't pool around you.
Yeah, I was thinking I would take it. It wouldn't fit in my shower, but it would probably fit in it'd certainly fit in the downstairs tub. That might be that I'll take a shower down there.
Right.
We'll see.
Well, let me know. I'm happy to bring it over if you need it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it if nothing else at this point. So yeah, if you can find it, if it's not buried in the attic, that would be it. Because if it's buried in the attic, don't go looking around for it.
Well, I have something else I have to put up there anyway that's still sitting there from Halloween's. That'll be a good excuse to go up there.
Okay, thank you.
So next week we'll be making a smoky farro chickpea soup, and Denise is leading. And then the week after that, we are making a Thai curried butternut squash soup, and Carol will be leading.
Yum.
Yeah, doesn't that sound good? Carol, have you made it already?
No, I have not.
Okay.
But I've made similar soups, so I understand the concept. It's you know, that sort of coconut milk thing, and very it has that exotic, you know, flavoring. So hopefully we'll be good.
I'm sure it will. I'm excited. It sounds delicious.
Good.
And then we won't be cooking, of course, the last week of December. People have
That
big
kind of reminds
plans.
me of that. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was thinking of that. It made me think of that. Remember that wild rice soup? Wild rice.
Yes.
There was with that butternut phase when we first started doing it, the fall of 2020.
Yeah.
And every week it was like butternut, some variation of it. There was a wild rice and butternut. That's what, and it had curry in it. That was such a good soup.
We got to bring it
I would
back.
love to make that one again.
Okay.
I never did. I should just make, I mean, I could make it anytime, right? I just never think
No,
of it.
you can only
I
cook
just love
soups
it.
with us. Nope, you can't make them on your own.
You know which one I made recently? It was the Thai peanut butter coconut milk one.
Yeah.
It was so good. I made it twice and made a lot of it. It was good.
Yeah.
And I have a request for that. It was Salma had that wild autumn one.
Yep. Great. What was that autumn soup? Somebody was cooking it last week while we were making our Monday soup.
Oh, that may be the one I was talking about. It's wild rice and butternut squash, but it may be called wild autumn soup. I think that's the same.
that is it.
It's
Yeah,
probably
we're
talking
going to
about
make
the same
that one
thing.
next year for sure. So I'm labeling this curried lentil soup and calling it vegan.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Curry lentil butternut squash soup.
Oh, you're right about that. Let's see if I can fit all that.
Deb, do you type out your labels or do you write them out by hand?
I had written them out by hand until a couple of weeks ago. Somebody sent me a link for a size label that I had here. So now I'm typing them.
And then you just print them out onto sticky paper?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
There's some template on the website, Alexa, but let me know if you need a different something and I can help.
Yeah, I've seen those, the KindWorks labels, sort of square ones.
Yeah.
And I was just going to kind of just write smaller and cut them smaller so that I can fit one piece of packing tape around it on top of my container instead of having two pieces and the side goes over the edge. And so, but I like the idea of typing it because my handwriting is, if I'm writing the same thing 12 or 15 times, it's a little illegible by the end. So
mine totally too. I agree.
Can I ask 2 cooking questions?
Yeah.
It said, it asked for, I mean, my pot is all cooking now, but it said it asked for coconut oil or butter, but then it didn't seem to anywhere that we were like sauteing things. Did we saute things first? I joined a little bit late.
No, they.
Oh yeah, well yeah, you were. I mean, the recipe is written to drop everything in.
Yeah.
All at once. But I didn't do it that way, and Deb didn't do it that way. We all kind of like just sweat it.
Okay.
We'll sweat the onions and the celery and the butternut squash first because it just seems more flavorful that way.
Yes, and that makes more sense. And I think
that coconut oil actually is at the end. If I recall, the end of the recipe, it says to add it when you're eating it, but I didn't do that when I ate it before. I don't know that I would do that now. I mean, I'm not sure
No, you cook. It's before you put before you bring the heat down to a simmer. You've added the coconut oil. I think adding it at the end would be way too
much. Look at the very end of the recipe when it says how to serve it.
It does say
just serve a little drizzle of it.
Yeah, you don't.
That seems weird, right?
Yeah.
Too strong.
So somebody had the suggestion to add yogurt. So somebody
Lisa, did you add yogurt?
I only added it when I was eating it.
When you were eating it. That seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really good. Even a squeeze of lemon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Might brighten it up a little bit.
Yeah.
My other question was, did anybody make curry powder from scratch, like from homemade? Or did everybody just, because I realized that I was out of pre-made curry powder. So I looked online and it was interesting to read the difference between curry powder, which is an English Indian flavored spice, as opposed to like the coriander and the cardamom and all of that stuff that is in Indian cooking. So I didn't have coriander was the primary spice in it. So, but I had a Charlie's curry, which I think is maybe from Wegmans. I had like a jarred English curry and I had like half of it left. So I just dumped, that's what I used. But I like the idea of making curry powder at home if I have a lot of like the coriander and other spices.
So I make my own garam masala, which is pretty
you do?
easy. You know, kind of toast the spices and then you grind them up. But I bought my curry at that lovely little Indian market on Old Georgetown Road.
Yeah.
That makes the best samosas ever. They're really, so when you go in there, they always say, you want some samosas? And I always say no. And this time I said, I need 4. They said, we don't have 4 samosas. Did you not have 4?
Really?
No, we have 12. So they're missing their job as a stand-up comedian, but the samosas are wonderful.
That's good to know. They're so nice in there. I got my curry powder there too, and I like to try to buy things in there just to support them. It's a really interesting store. I love to go in there and look at all the things.
Where on Georgetown Road is it?
It's right next to Sandy Nails.
Exactly.
All right.
On Old Georgetown Road, just below or above Wilson.
Okay.
I second
Where the art
they're
supply, the art
best-
framing store.
Yeah, I know where
They
that
are
is.
the best samosas, really. I mean, so delicious, and the people are so nice and kind.
So
there.
nice.
And they also have frozen things like chicken tikka masala and things like that. That if you needed to make just to heat up a quick meal, that are actually quite surprisingly good for a frozen dinner.
And it's where I buy my paneer, also.
Paneer.
In the back. You have to go to the back.
You're special if you go to the back and get.
They're not open on Mondays, I think. If I recall, they're only open Tuesday through Saturday, so I'm not go on Monday. That looks good, Carol.
Well, mine's been cooking for about an hour. I just tasted it. I think it's done.
It looks good on. It looks really
Thank
good.
you. I was just going to ask if this is cooked enough because I've only cooked for half an hour. Now I did not use French lentils. I used regular, but I tasted it and to me, I like them a little firm. So I'm turning off the heat. I think it's done enough.
Good.
Well, that works for me because I told someone I'd be in the car at 6:30. So everybody give me the thumbs up if you all are looking like things are moving along swiftly and happily. Julie Erdman, how are you doing? You're good?
Okay. Yeah, so we couldn't find French lentils. I got just some green lentils and it tastes good to me, but how long would you cook this with the French lentils? That takes longer, like the 3 hours, or still not 3 hours?
Still not 3 hours. I did 2. Somebody else did an hour and a half.
I did an hour and a half.
So some hour and a half to 2
I think
hours.
2 at max.
I did.
So Carol, I have a question about your soup.
Thanks.
Mine is much more watery with the 15 cups of stuff. Did you use 15?
I did not do 15 cups. I wanted
Yeah.
it to be more dense. So I did not do all that water. Yeah.
Okay.
All that.
Mine too, Betsy. Mine's more watery. Yeah, so I wish I had these.
Mine's
little
more
ones.
like a almost a a stew, I guess. Than a
Yeah.
soup.
Okay.
You can always add the water later too.
That's what I figured.
It does tend to thicken up as it kind of melds together, and especially when it cools.
I really find that because the spices change when it's cool, that I like to wait and then add water later. And
Who was it who cooked for the 3 hours and what was the consistency like when it was done after the 3 hours? Follow the recipe exactly.
I cooked it follow the recipe for 3 hours, and the French lentils stayed firm, and there wasn't a super amount of liquid. I mean, it really just had a nice consistency.
Oh, that's good.
The flavors really melded and blended well together.
And I'll remind you guys, Alexa, I don't know if you heard, but Terry Sirota had made it. And she said that because of the sugar, she really appreciated the taste of the soup after the full 3 hours. But after an hour and a half, she tried it and the sugar was like out of place completely.
Oh,
If you use sugar, maybe consider cooking it the longer amount.
Oh.
So it turns out that I'm out of time, haha. And before I go out to the garden, would you substitute something else? I think Kelly was saying something about her like or dislike of thyme.
About substitutions? Was that the question?
Yeah, for thyme.
Over time. Oh, it was dried versus fresh.
Ah,
If you
okay.
don't have fresh thyme, just maybe use like a tablespoon of dried.
Yeah,
if you like thyme.
I somehow put my dried thyme container back when it was empty. So I just went to grab it and I was like, oh well.
I'm not sure that it really needs the time. Honestly, I don't really detect it in there so much, and I'm not sure that it was like a necessary addition.
Mm-hmm.
With soups are forgiving. Sometimes the curry is so strong in this recipe that everything else kind of is sort of on second base, right? But so I don't think it matters. I threw a jalapeno in mine, for instance. Just because I'm in a getting ready, I'm in a garbage mode. Like, what can I get rid of and throw into the soup?
So I think technically you can substitute oregano.
I was away all weekend, and at about 4 o'clock, I thought, oh, let me see what the soup is. Oop, did I interrupt somebody? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was saying technically, I think you can either substitute oregano for thyme.
Really?
I don't know what the trade-off is, teaspoon to teaspoon, or marjoram, however it's pronounced. I always get that wrong. So if you have those, you may want to experiment with that.
And I was just saying that I had been away all weekend, and so I came back and said, oh, I want to join a soup. And then I looked, and I remembered, I think Deb was saying last week that it was going to be lentil, and I was like, well, I got lentil. And so I didn't have butternut squash, and I didn't want to go to the store, so I used I had a can of butternut squash, so mine's going to be creamier. But it was interesting to me too, so many of our soups come together in like the 1 hour that we're cooking together, and it's so interesting that this one takes so much longer and flavor is different, but it's also possible to make really fabulous soup in a half an hour. So that was interesting to me to think about.
For sure. Is anyone going anywhere interesting for the holidays?
Mexico.
Mexico. Yes, that's right. Laura's going to Mexico. Has anyone been to San Miguel? You have, Betsy? That's where Laura goes. That's where Laura.
Yeah, we have friends who have a house there, and we
spent
a couple of weeks there last February, which was just wonderful. It was great. Wonderful ways. And Laura, that's where you live?
45 minutes away from there.
Towards what?
Towards it's in between Querétaro and San Luis Potosí.
Wonderful.
Like northeast of San Miguel.
Got it.
Was it cold?
No, it was ideal. It was perfect. The weather was glorious.
Oh,
staying at our friend's house was just, really nice. The only problem was the Americans.
There's a lot of Americans there.
There are a lot of expats. So our friend is she's Mexican, and they live part of the year in Arlington and part of the year down in San Miguel, and her brother and sister and her elderly mother are down there. So there's a lot of back and forth. But we're trying to figure out whether we can go again this year in May. So
Were the Americans just not behaved or well behaved, or what? Or just you didn't like the volume of them?
So Laura may have some insights. I think at least two kinds of Americans move down. There are those who can't afford to live up here and they want to recreate their American life in Mexico. And so they kind of import that culture and expectation there. And then there are others who want to live in Mexico and are receptive and embracing of the Mexican culture. Laura, correct me.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, and it's not just there, it's but yeah, and they some of the people that have moved down there, they get kind of upset that they don't speak English. It's like, hey man, you're in their country, learn Spanish. I mean, my Spanish is not good at all, but I can certainly go grocery shopping and ask directions, and I can get myself understood. But yeah, culture is something that we need to meld to when we're visiting somewhere else. But
now
do you find that to be the case in other places you visit, Betsy?
Do I find that to be typical of Americans? I guess
no. That's just that particular challenge, shall we say, that Americans have. I know you travel around the world a lot, right?
Yeah.
You go to a lot of different places.
I found it especially so there because that's where people have settled. So if you're in Bangladesh, people don't expect it to be like going to the Walmart or whatever, the Costco.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people retire to San Miguel because it's much less expensive and they can live a more indulgent life, and they expect it to be as Walmarty as it was when they lived wherever it was that they lived. So no, I think, Kelly, most places, people, when they go to interesting places, they go there because they are interesting. And they are receptive and open, and try to remember not to eat the street food, which I forgot the last time I was in Bangladesh.
Oh no! Oh yeah, I think you came on the Zoom soon after that, but I didn't realize that that's where you had been. We didn't. I don't know, we talked about where you'd been. That's funny. Not funny. It wasn't funny at the time. I know.
It was okay. It was okay. So, all right, I need to log off. Deb is ready to get in the car.
Well, that's
Deb,
okay.
you clean up nicely.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out something to wear. So, Laura and Susan and Kelly, do you guys want to stay on and I'll leave the Zoom open so you can catch up, or are you guys all good and you're going to go about your evenings?
Do you guys have time? Are you?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, we'll stay on and say hi.
All right,
thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Of course.
Thank you,
Thank
Kelly.
you for having me.
Thank you,
Marge,
Kelly.
good luck. Refuah Shlema.
Take care, everyone.
You with my big pot.
I'll see you all before then, I think.